Good morning. Welcome to episode 104 of the Driller Newscast, a weekly update on the news and stories impacting the construction, drilling, and water industry. I'm your host, Brock Yorty, and this week in the news, we have the Bureau of Reclamation announcing a $30 million grant to 114 projects for the Upper Colorado River Basin. This will help conserve 66,000 acre feet, and by the end of 2026, over 3 million acre feet. Next, our feature, it's about attending geothermal conferences, understanding our expectations of what we as drilling and drilling professionals can do, how we need to scale to be able to meet the needs of these shallow ground source geothermal bore field projects to install loops, and our expectations. But before we get into all this great content, let's talk some safety in the news. For this week's safety, we're going to go back because now the final ruling has come out on employees' rights to authorize a representative to accompany an occupational and safety health administrator compliance officer during an inspection. Here's the announcement. The U.S. Department of Labor published a final rule on March 27th, clarifying employees' right to authorize a representative to accompany an occupational safety and health administrator compliance officer during an inspection of their workplace. The Occupational Safety and Health Act allows employers and employees to authorize a representative to accompany OSHA officials during workplace inspections. The final rule clarifies that, consistent with the law, workers may authorize another employee to serve as their representative or select a non-employee. This is a big deal, everybody, because we have safety professionals out there that are dedicated to specific industries, that know the rules, that want to be there to support, especially as we look at drilling and other unique types of work. It is good to have a safety professional involved that can explain why we do the process we do, how we mitigate the risk. And this rule is from having big discussions on these topics. On to the rest of the release. For a non-employee representative to accompany the compliance officer in a workplace, they must be reasonably necessary to conduct an effective and thorough inspection. And again, this comes back to us understanding suspended loads, hoisting plugs, breakout wrenches, everything to do with drilling, but this is all construction pieces. To continue. Consistent with OSHA's historic practice, the rule clarifies that a non-employee representative may be reasonably necessary based on skills, knowledge, or experience. This experience may include knowledge or experience with hazards or conditions in the workplace or similar workplaces, or language or communication skills to ensure an effective and thorough inspection. It's very important for us to think about right there. You know, having the effective communication skills, understanding the hazards. It's very important for us to think about this, everybody. These revisions better align OSHA's regulation with the OSHA Act and enable the agency to conduct more effective inspections. OSHA regulations require no specific qualifications for employer representatives or for the employer representatives who are employed by the employer. The rule is in part a response to a 2017 court decision ruling that an agency's existing regulation, which was 29 CFR 1903.8C, only permitted employees of the employer to be an authorized representative. However, the court acknowledged that OSHA Act does not limit who can serve as an employee's representative, and that OSHA's historic practice was a persuasive and valid construction of the OSHA Act. Today's final rule is the culmination of the notice and comment rulemaking that clarifies OSHA's inspection regulations and aligns with OSHA's longstanding construction of the Act. Workers' involvement in the inspection process is essential for thorough and effective inspections and making workplace safer. This came from Assistant Secretary for OSHA, Doug Parker. And we can all say from the newscast and whatnot, Doug Parker has had our back and has listened to our advice and has been a great advocate for the construction industry, along with all of OSHA. Thank you, Doug. He continues, the Occupational Safety and Health Act gives employers and employees equal opportunity for choosing representation during the OSHA inspection process. And this rule returns us to the fair, balanced approach Congress intended. This rule will become effective May 31st, 2024. It is very important as we step out on these job sites to think about, we have a incident, we have an inspection that comes up as we go on larger commercial geothermal projects with large construction situations going on. The drilling industry, unless you're part of the mining project with MSHA always available, we have been construction ninjas. We come and go, not a lot of people see, we do a lot of unsafe acts. This gives us an opportunity to have that right safety professional consultant, that safety professional company that's been coming in to help you rework your safety standards, your standard operating procedures. Having the expert on site that can walk with that compliance officer and have a full discussion and understand how we mitigate those risks and how we fix any violation we have. Only habitual offenders end up with thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines. OSHA has programs called Safety Pays and grant programs to help us. OSHA has two types of professionals that are in the field. They have compliance officers and they have consultants. You can invite an OSHA consultant to your job site. I know this is taboo to us, but you can invite them out. They will have a full discussion and walk the job site and help you make a better, safer situation for all of your people and mitigate risk so that you can stay safe, efficient, and profitable. This is a great win. And thank you again, OSHA and Doug Parker, for helping us get there. For this week in the news, the Department of Interior on March 28th announced that Bureau of Reclamation has made $30 million available for 114 projects in the Upper Colorado River Basin through President Biden's Investing in America agenda, which is delivering unprecedented resources to protect the Colorado River system. These projects will conserve about 66,400 acre-feet of Colorado River water in the upper basin. And this is as a part of the Colorado River 2024 Conservation Pilot Program. The Colorado River Basin provides water for more than 40 million people, fuels hydropower resources in 7 U.S. states, supports 5.5 million acres of agriculture and agricultural communities across the West, and is a crucial resource for 30 tribal nations and 2 states in Mexico. Despite the improved hydrology in recent months, the historic 23-year drought has led to record low water levels at Lake Powell and Lake Mead. Yes, as of April 1st and 2nd, we're talking about Lake Powell being at 86% of its capacity and Lake Mead being at 1,076 feet. We've seen some significant rain impacts that have helped us. The state of California has released more water to all senior water right holders. Things are changing, but this is a marathon, everybody, and we still have many years of trying to recover all that we've depleted. The Biden-Harris administration has led a comprehensive effort to address the ongoing drought and strengthen water security across the region now and into the future. They relaunched the 2024 initiative with funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. The Conservation Pilot Program is helping support water management and conservation efforts to improve water efficiency and ultimately protect the short-term sustainability of the Colorado River system. Here's the quote. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to making communities more resilient to the impacts of climate change, including across the Colorado River Basin and the diverse communities that rely on it. This came from Acting Deputy Secretary Laura Daniel Davis. Next quote. Building on our significant milestones this year to protect the Colorado River system, we are continuing to make smart investments through the president's Investing in America agenda to protect the stability and sustainability of the Colorado River system and increase water efficiency across the West. Next quote. The Bureau of Reclamation is committed to ensuring the continued availability of water across the West, while at the same time enhancing the resiliency of our communities to a changing climate. This is a big deal, everybody. And we need to think about how this impacts us, how this helps us. We understand that Texas and New Mexico get water that comes down across the South Basin of the Colorado River. I want you to think about this. From 2015 to 2018, the Upper Basin System Conservation Pilot Program successfully tested new approaches to conserve water on the Colorado River. It proved that these measures are an effective approach to increase water efficiency and temporarily mitigate the impacts of drought. The program was in cooperation and managed by the Reclamation and the Upper Division states of Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming, and acting through the Upper Colorado River Commission. It utilized input from water users, water management organizations, and previous program participants to focus on projects that support innovation in water conservation, local drought resiliency, and those that inform and potential demand. That's a big piece as we look at our mining and all the pieces. We have lithium mining happening in Nevada and Utah. There's plenty of places where we need water and we have to understand our impacts. And I want to jump right into how the lower basin states, California, Nevada, Arizona, have reduced 3 million acre feet. And that's a big deal because this program is saying by 2026, it will have conserved 3 million acre feet of water. That's 6 million acre feet. There's only 15 million acre feet total in the Colorado River as we look at it. So as we think about this situation, we saw Governor Hobbs pull pumping permits from these Saudi farms that were doing alfalfa. Why? Well, when I was in an FFA in the late 90s, before I even went on to understand and study groundwater science, I understood that in the Western United States, alfalfa requires 4 to 6 acre feet of water per acre to maintain it. 1 acre foot is just under 326,000 gallons. So as you look at what this conservation program's doing, you see what Governor Hobbs in Arizona or Governor Newsom in California has looked at for all of the farming. Those Saudi farms had 6,000 acres of farmland across the Western United States. That's a lot of water consumption. Not only our agricultural water consumption that we're also looking at for resiliency. It's just a big piece and much more to the story. And as more develops, we'll come out with it. For this week's feature, Solar Eclipse Day. And it's pretty cool to think about, as today, April 8th, there's not only that significant event, but there's another great significant event happening this week that seems to get eclipsed all too often, and that is the New York Geothermal Association conference in Albany that happens today and tomorrow. It's a big event, and that event, they do a great job of promoting, but ground source geothermal gets eclipsed by deep hot rock geothermal, by the term of heat pumps, meaning any type of heat pumps, air source heat pumps versus ground source heat pumps. And so I want you to think about that as we first geek out a little bit about the, you know, the eclipse. And so we'll make that our number one topic because it's on everybody's mind. The total solar eclipse will start today in Mexico's Pacific coast and will move northeast across the United States, crossing 14 states before ending over Canada. The last event we had like this was in 2017, and it ranged from coast to coast in North America. It's pretty wild because as we think about it, of the impacts of these that's going to happen today, I want you to have a safety meeting right now, as soon as this is over, about how our people should be handling the distraction, the discussions, the things that are happening on the radio, the increased traffic, the possibility of motorists stopping in the middle of the road if you're in this path. There's plenty of things that we need to mitigate risk. And for that 40-ish minutes that this takes place, depending on where you are in the country, it's time for you to do a safety stand down, let everybody enjoy this, and then get back to it. So today, the moon will block the sun for 4 minutes and 28 seconds. And this typically happens in really remote places on the globe, and we don't get to enjoy it as we are as North America is today. And it's going to hit big cities like Dallas, Indianapolis, Little Rock, Paducah, Evansville, Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo, Burlington, Lancaster, Caribou, Maine. So if you're listening right now and it's 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 if you're in Texas, let's talk about how the shrouding of the sun will happen by the moon. In Texas, it's going to be 12:23 Central and will be completed by 1:40, where we hit totality. If we jump into the mid-con, Cleveland, Ohio, it's going to start around 1:59, and totality will be 3:13. If we jump clear up into the northeast, Caribou, Maine, partial will start at 2:22 with a totality at 3:32 Eastern. For me and the driller team, we'll be stepping inside after we get to see our partial eclipse because we won't be in the path of totality. We'll be walking back into the Albany Marriott so that we can embark on what we consider our big event of the week, the New York Geothermal Association Conference, which will kick off with a social event where drillers, manufacturers, HVAC contractors, engineers, state representatives, and agencies will all come together to talk about our huge goal of 100 million bore feet of shallow geothermal drilling to install loops to support ground source heat pumps in the state of New York. This is a big deal, everybody, because we're working our way towards net zero. And just like this big, significant eclipse event that's going to happen today, we have time to get ramped up and be prepared. If you think of all the preparation all these cities have taken for all the people that are going to come see, or getting your glasses, or understanding when you should be able to stare at the sun or when you're not supposed to stare at the sun, we've been prepping for this day to ramp up ground source geothermal drilling for ground source heat pumps. And that's because at the Newscast, we've talked often about the importance of getting involved in drilling these shallow geothermal boreholes. However, as this afternoon kicks off at the New York Geo event, I'm going to say this is the net zero train leaving the station, and New York is plastered on the front of this train because they're leading the way. However, drillers, we have to help push that train to our 2030 goals. In the past, 2 years, we've talked about the opportunities, but here's the reality. States are now harnessing Inflation Reduction Act money and federal infrastructure law money to deploy workforce development centers of excellences. Why? Because they've heard you. Heat in the state of Massachusetts, or NYSERDA in the state of New York, along with Connecticut, Vermont, Illinois, Colorado, California, have all heard your voice saying we need more individuals in the drilling industry. So they've started putting the programs together. However, now they need to hear your voice. And we've seen this from discussing price per foot to expectations of a new employee, how we will onboard them. What do our job safety analysis look like? What do our standard operating procedures look like? It's all because we have an opportunity to develop a whole new group of individuals. I want you to think back of Roosevelt and getting our country back up and working, building highways and state parks and stuff. This is what's going to happen with the net zero revolution. And I hear this all the time. Big oil is always going to be around, Brock, and we got to stop greenwashing things. This is bullshit. We need to be part of this. This is going to diversify and develop our industry for the next 50 to 100 years. This is helping lower our carbon emissions to maintain our planet so that we get to have clean water and we get to have sunshine and we get to have a future. And so, drilling companies, I want you to start thinking right now, if we develop this new group of individuals to operate rigs, install loops, drought boreholes, maintain drilling fluid systems, and complete a bore field, where does it start? And we've talked about this plenty. It's going to start with your company's standard operating procedures. If you want to be able to take on a new hire that is coming out of a technical program trained by drilling professionals, trained by people that know and understand the expectations that have led, we have to be able to see your expectations of work, commitment, milestones. We've talked about this a lot, but this is the reality is now. So as this train's leaving the station and we're pushing to meet these goals, what are your standard operating procedures? What are your safety expectations? What is your job safety analysis? What does your drilling program look like? How are you going to onboard these people? Because as these center of excellences ramp up and we get more and more great individuals, you got to think there's going to be plenty of people wanting their expertise and skills. And we can see this from large companies vertically integrating into drilling because they want the thermal network loop utility. Drilling is just a necessary piece for them to be able to control the quality and expectations and have projects finish on time safely. We see National Grid and Eversource and Con Ed and their expectations for safety, pipeline safety. Any of you that do cathodic, do any other civil construction, operators qualifications. What is your ISN net safety credentials? What are your safety credentials? We need to start thinking about what your goal is and how you're going to get there. And this all comes back to the New York Geo conference that's happening here, the state geothermal conferences that are happening, the IGSPA conference, NGWA, including protecting our groundwater, how we're grouting, expectations to grouting, expectations to setbacks, how we're going to deal with variances. There's plenty of things at play right now. And your voice and your expectations and your professionalism is a big piece of this. So don't get shrouded out by the wrong people taking good new hires and starting drilling companies. We need all the drilling companies, and we need HVAC professionals getting into drilling. We need water well drilling companies diversifying, and we need whole new companies. So it's going to happen. But if you are the expert for your area, part of your state groundwater association, let's all get together and start thinking about how we meet these goals. And it's very important for us because this is how we're going to be successful. And it's not by being eclipsed out. Be safe. Make sure your people are focused today. And get involved in shallow ground source geothermal right now. And if you are involved, get the rest of your competitors and your friends and other drilling companies involved, because we got a lot of drilling to do. 100 million bore feet in New York. That's just New York. Think about the country. There's lots of pieces of pie to go around, and we should all be involved. Thank you for joining us for episode 104 of the Driller Newscast. Check out thedriller.com. There's great content coming out every day. In a few days, you'll see more from the New York Geo event that we're at right now. We have our Washington correspondent, JJ Smith. We have our new editor-in-chief, Sammy, who is just promoting our industry in so many different ways and getting us out there and making more awareness to all the great things that drilling does to progress civilization, along with our great columnists that contribute monthly. Go check them out. And if you'd like to write for us or be interviewed or share a story, please reach out to Sammy. She'd love to help you get your story out there. Hope you had a chance to check out the solar eclipse, or you're planning to. It really shows how small our planet is in the scheme of the entire universe, and how important the sun is to our life on this planet, from the heat that we need to absorb to the heat that we need to reject, and how greenhouse gases impacts that. That's the importance of shallow ground source geothermal heat pumps, getting us to a net zero goal, reducing greenhouse gases, and just having a future. That's so very important to us. Go out, be safe, and have a great week.